Welcome to the Clear to Send podcast, a podcast about wireless engineering, where we educate you on Wi-Fi technology, talk about design tips, troubleshooting, interviews, and the tools. Here are your hosts, Roel and Francois.
Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. This is Francois. I'm actually here with Roel, right now.
Right next to me, physically, in the same place.
Which is crazy. It feels surreal a little bit.
Yeah, because when was the last time we were... Oh, Cisco Live in Florida?
I'm not even sure. WPC Europe, maybe?
Oh, yeah, that was the last time. Yeah, so how long ago was that? 2 years ago?
I don't know. Too long.
That's the last time we were physically in the same place and recorded.
So we're actually in Roel's studio right now, recording this. He's like mixing up the music and everything.
The West Coast Clear to Send office.
Exactly. And so we're together today to talk about certifications, how to get started, to continue on the on the topic we started on the last episode. And today we wanted to talk about the MIST track.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good certification to go after, especially if you're going to be using more of the MIST access points and getting used to the dashboard. We can talk about our experiences because I recently took it as well. I ended up doing that, a week ago, or actually, no, a few days ago.
Did you pass?
I did pass. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Awesome. And it was an interesting exam, and you were encouraging me to just take it rather than fully take the time to study.
Yeah, especially for the first level. I mean, you've been in the game for a little while. The first level is entry level, right? It's the what they call the JNCIA, the associate level. So,
associate, yes.
Yeah, I knew you had the knowledge to take the exam without over studying for it.
I wanted to study because I don't know. I'm just not a good exam taker, so I tend to try to over prepare. But after really looking at the objectives, like half of it was fundamental Wi-Fi concepts, like very, very fundamental, like not even CWNA level, like much lower than that. And then the other half was the actual MIST implementation.
And you've worked with MIST too, right?
Yeah. I have a client who has MIST. I have MIST access points. So yeah, I'm familiar with the dashboard.
Yeah. So I knew you would be okay for the first level. For the next one, maybe you'll need to study a little bit more. For the JNCIS, we'll talk about the two certifications. But for the first one, if you have Wi-Fi experience and you have MIST experience, I think, you have everything you need to pass the exam. I don't even know the passing mark, but it's probably like 70.
I don't know the passing mark either. It's kind of weird with the scoring.
I don't think they advertise it, right?
No, they don't advertise the passing score, and that's what I was looking for as well. But to talk about what's in the associate level MistAI certification. So for those that want, let's talk about who it's for, right? You definitely go for it if you're going to work with MIST products, right? The switches, the access points, the dashboard. It's not a certification I would just take if I wasn't playing with that equipment or plan to use that equipment. It is vendor specific, just like any other vendor. But they do throw in some objectives where you need to have Wi-Fi knowledge. So it is very Wi-Fi focused, even though the dashboard hosts switches as well. But the focus is on the Wi-Fi part.
Yeah, and I think that comes from the the MIST history, right? MIST was originally a Wi-Fi company, and then Juniper purchased them, and they started to add switches and more to the dashboard. But I think when they've originally created the certification track for MIST, the idea behind that is, let get those Juniper people who are very skilled with switches and routing. Let get them skilled with Wi-Fi as well. So that's why I think it's more geared towards Wi-Fi. But you always have different levels too, right? It's just like Cisco, you have associate and then professional, whatever. Juniper, they call it associate and specialist.
Yeah.
And then professional and expert. So maybe in that MIST track, in the future we'll have other certifications more geared towards switches and firewall
or security. Yeah. So for the associate level right now, as of this recording, it's half of it is Wi-Fi. So we're talking about WLAN concepts with the channels that are available, the frequencies, signal strength, client capabilities. Like you need to know some of that very fundamental basic Wi-Fi knowledge. Those questions will come up in the exam. And then you have to know about the Wi-Fi standards. Like they teach you that for the CWNA, but here you just need to know basic Wi-Fi standards. Like where does the standard come from? What is that standard, right? And know the difference between something like AX and AC. And also they mentioned Wi-Fi Alliance. I don't remember why you need to know. Maybe some of the amendments with Wi-Fi Alliance. And then also the life cycle. I think that's important too, like understanding the Wi-Fi life cycle. According to the MIST, right? MIST life cycle. It's not usually the same for every company or every vendor, but there is a life cycle that they identify that you should know about.
Yeah, and I mean, if you already have a CWNA, you probably already know all of this. If you want to study and get yourself ready for this exam, this particular MIST exam, MIST actually put together a website called design.mist.com. Yeah, I was going to say CA, but it's just my brain acting on me. Design.mist.com, and they actually worked with Peter McKenzie to record a whole bunch of videos on the theory of Wi-Fi, what's important, life cycle, like you talked about. If you watch all of these videos, I think you have more than enough.
Yeah. They cover everything pretty much. And it's free. So you can go to that website and you'll see all those videos. That it's funny enough, they don't list that as a study guide or a resource for studying, but that is a good resource to use when you're looking at this exam.
Yeah. And it's entertaining as well.
Yeah.
They have little cartoon characters and you have the, the old way of doing things. It's like an old guy. And then you have the Misty, which is the new girl. She does it, everything the Mist way.
Fresh. Yeah.
She's fresh.
The new way of doing things.
Yeah.
Versus the old way. Yeah. They try to make it entertaining for you. So you're not bored. While the other study material can be a little bit boring because it is documentation is what they list for studying for this exam. They what else? There's like an open learning.
Juniper has a learning portal where they have videos as well, where you can just sit. It's like a self-paced type of learning. You can just sit there, read the slides, or have someone read the slides for you.
Yeah, and then there's MIST Master, which you can get. You can take that through the MIST portal. Dashboard. But there is no in-person training, which I don't think you need any kind of official in-person training for this certification. For
the first level, I don't think you necessarily need any online. Maybe one day they have a course, but from what I understood from Juniper, for all of the associate level, they prefer to do the online self-learning video type of training. And then after that, if you want to go up one level to the specialist or professional, then that's when they offer the training.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you look at the objectives, it is they always started off with identifying concepts, components. So you're really just trying to understand what is what, but not necessarily diving really deep into those concepts. And the other half of the objectives are MIST specific, right? So you've got MIST AI components, which talks about the cloud, what kind of subscriptions you need. So that's very specific. And it's funny to see even subscriptions as a bullet item for an exam. You need to know what kind of subscription you need for this, right?
Yeah. Which is, it's part of MIST, right? And I mean, as engineer, I don't know about you, Roel, but as engineer, that's always the stuff we don't like to deal with. Like,
any kind of licensing or subscriptions, but at least it is pretty easy.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of crazy SKUs you got to memorize for this exam, but maybe some like what do you need to manage an access point or something right?
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of subscription do you need for location-based services? And then you've got to know how to do or identify like MIST AI configuration. So some of the basic configuration items. Yeah. Like it's like standing it up for the first time, and then monitoring as well. So a lot of good specific MIST configurations and concepts. So this part, I think you actually would need to play around with it. I feel just from my own experience in learning, I would need to stage up a missed access point and go through the dashboard and
configuration. Yeah.
Which you can probably try to, if you don't have a missed access point, I think you can sign up for one of those webinars where you get a free access point. And then once you have that access point, you're all set to even tackle this exam, the JNCIA-MistAI exam.
Or what you could do is MIST is very easy to, when you have a MIST organization, to actually give access to that organization to someone else. So if you know a friend who has a MIST AP and that can give you access to their org, you could try to do that so you can mess with their IPs, right?
Yeah, because certain things like the service level expectations, you'd need to know what those are, see it in the dashboard, talk about Marvis and the insights. Like you need to see what that looks like.
It's easier to learn, right? It's easier to learn that way.
It is.
Going back to your question of, who is it for? I think it's both for people like Wi-Fi people who are used to do another vendor. And then, they recently moved to MIST to kind of get through the stuff and get certified. I think it's nice. But it's also good for people who are, coming to MIST through Juniper and through the switching and routing.
Yeah, the traditional path.
Yeah.
Right? Because even they don't talk about switches in this exam. It's not going to come up. I haven't seen it come up, but it is something that maybe in the professional level.
Yeah, they'll start doing. We'll see. So that's the first level. They call it the JNCIA, A for Associate, MistAI. That's the full name for the certification. And you can register online, right? Pearson Vue, you can do it from home.
Yeah, Pearson Vue, you can do it in person at a testing center, or you can take it in the comfort of your own home, right? So I did the whole test at home thing. There's an app that you need to download, something you'll have to test before the actual exam, because you download the app. There's certain things they need to verify you can do on your computer, like have access to your camera, have access to your microphone, test all that, and don't waste time trying to make that work on the actual exam day. Because I've done it twice now this year. The first time it was very smooth, right? The second time it took a while for it to actually work. Like the proctor said they couldn't hear anything from my microphone. And so when I use my laptop, I do a clamshell mode where I close the laptop and it connects to a dock. And for whatever reason, the microphone wasn't being picked up. So what I would suggest to people is just use your laptop, all the built-in camera, built-in microphone, so you don't have any components to troubleshoot. Because I even checked in 30 minutes before my exam, and I didn't finish all of that until 30 minutes later.
Wow.
And they even said, because they tried it 3 times to make it work, they said, if it doesn't work after this fourth try, we're going to have to revoke your exam. Whoa. So that's when I took the laptop out and just did it that way, and then they let me use it.
Okay.
And so they'll ask for things like, if you're interested in knowing how that works, Pearson Vue they'll send you a link to check in. So they recommend checking in at least 30 minutes before the exam time. You'll use your phone to take a photo of your ID, a photo of your face, and then pictures of your setup. So they want to see the front, the sides, and the back of your desk. And be sure to remove anything off your desk. Just make it as clear as possible. So if you're in with me in Francois right now, that I have the podcast set up. Yeah, I had to remove the mixer. Like they said, can you remove that? So I had to place that somewhere else. I removed a picture frame because it's digital. I removed everything that was on my desk, and then the phone. Like they tried calling me too. Yeah, and then I talked to them, and then they tell you to hang up, and then they'll tell me to put my camera behind me, like on a shelf, and then they just want to see that it's there, so that way you're not reaching for the phone.
Yeah. And you know what? I did it a couple of times as well. And they also tell you to put your phone away, but then they call you on your phone. So the first time, same thing as you, everything went smooth. The second time around, I connected and I waited. No one showed up.
Really?
Yeah. So I did it late because I didn't want anyone to disturb. Yeah. And so after half an hour, it was like 10:30 p.m. I was like, okay, I'm just leaving. And then, so I closed my laptop. I go get my phone, and I saw that the guy called me like 3 times. So I call him back and I ask him, can I still do it? He's like, sure. And then so we did it. I did it late at night.
So they didn't try messaging you through a chat?
No.
Because I think that's what they do now. They say, hey, I'm going to call you on your phone.
Which makes
it says
sense
on the chat.
Yeah.
But for me, like I block any unknown numbers, so I don't even know where they're calling from. So I'll see a missed call and I'll try to call back. So just to be aware that they will try to call you, and you can keep your phone with you during the check-in process. So I did that initially last year with one of the Pearson exams. I turned off my phone and everything. And then in the chat, they were like, hey, I'm trying to call you. And I'm like, oh, well, the instructions say put away your phone when you're doing this exam. So you can keep it with you before you actually start the exam.
Yeah.
They'll tell you to put it away, and just be sure to like put it on vibrate or turn it off. You don't want the sound of your ringtone to disrupt your exam, because they might actually disqualify you that way.
Yeah.
It's a 90-minute exam. There's about 65 questions. For me, I think I finished it in under 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
and everything went well. You didn't have any.
Yeah, everything went well. Just after the whole check-in process, I just went through the exam, and then what's nice is you're able to review questions, right? With other exams, you can't go back and look at those questions. So for some, so the way I do the exam is I go pretty quick. Like I read it, I answer it. But if I have to like sit there for a bit and think about it, I'll review it. There's a little box that says review. And so I'll just hit the review. I'll pick my best answer, and then I'll keep moving forward. So that way I have more time at the end to review. Yeah. I review all the questions that I wanted to review, and then I end it.
Okay. That's a nice way. I've never done it that way.
Yeah. But, it's because I really hate exams, so I move fast, right?
Yeah.
But when you do that method, you have to be good at reading the question, because if you miss a word, you could be picking the wrong answer.
Yeah, you're right. That happens to me.
Yeah, so you have to read it. So what I do at home, which you can't do in person, is I read the questions out loud.
Oh, you do that?
Yeah, I will read it.
They let you do that?
They haven't said anything. They can hear me on the microphone. But I don't do it for every question, because, I mean, with my camera, they do ask like, hey, can you show me what your desk looks like? So I'll show them, like, they want to see everything. I show the desk, I show behind me. Because I was thinking, like, what if they think I'm just saying the questions out loud and someone else, someone's recording it? But I mean, they would have seen if someone was there, because I'm in a room. There's no one else in that room. But sometimes I will read it out loud to make sure I understand the question.
And you don't miss out any important words.
So that's worked well for me. The last 2 exams I've taken, and this one was no different. So that's the JNCIA-MistAI, a pretty entry-level exam. Multiple choice type of question.
Yeah. And do you want to talk about the next one?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one, because I think that one's more meatier. There's a lot more to cover on the specialist MistAI.
Funny story, the JNCIS, so the specialist certification came out before the JNCIA, right? Which is interesting, but the JNCIS is a specialist level. So that's when you start to get a little bit more into into the topics, into MIST especially.
Objectives look really interesting, right? So I haven't taken this one, but you've taken this exam.
Yeah, and this one is definitely a little bit more challenging. It's not as easy, so you kind of have to prepare yourself for it. There is a training that I'm one of the teacher for this training, which is called MistAI Wi-Fi training, I think. I don't know the full marketing name, but it's something you can find. MistAI Wi-Fi training, you'll find it. And so it's like a 4-day class. We talk about Wi-Fi basic. We talk about MIST, the MIST solution, how to get set up, how to monitor, troubleshoot, and then we talk a little bit about location and Python. But that class is kind of like geared to prepare you for the exam, and there's a lot of things packed into those 4 days. So it's a great way to get you prepared and ready for the exam.
I think they call it Juniper's MistAI networks.
Okay. All right. So here you go. You have the official name, Juniper MistAI networks, MIST.
Yeah, that one looks like the official course.
Yes.
Yeah, instructor led and also online.
Yeah. And they actually have a great deal for CWNEs. I think it's like 80 or 90% off.
Oh, really?
Say. Yeah.
Oh man, I should hop on that.
Yeah. It's, hopefully they still have the deal. Hopefully I'm not too late.
You're not just making it up.
But no, they had that deal, which is great if you're a CWNE and want to take the training. And that will kind of cover all of the important things that are, when you do a vendor certification, you always have some like very specific thing.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, well, you don't know,
Right.
So during the training, we kind of talk about all of these little specific things that you might be like test or tricked on during the exam,
Are you saying there's tricks on the exam?
No, I wouldn't say it's tricky, but I would say that you need to know your thing.
You need to know it. Right.
So, but I've had plenty of students, taking the class and then reviewing their notes and then passing the exam. So it's not rocket science either, right?
So then what would be the biggest difference between the specialist and the associate level?
So funny story talking about that. I mentioned that the specialist exam came out before the associate exam. So in my case, I took the specialist exam. Like I was one of the first one to take it. Like,
oh, okay.
The date became available. I registered my exam. And so what happened is I got certified. And when a JNCIA came along, they told me, oh, because you're already certified with the specialist level, we're just going to give it to you. They gave me the associate. So I've never taken the associate exam. I just took the specialist exam.
Because some of the objectives look similar.
Yeah.
They still have identify some of the concepts of Wi-Fi, like the Wi-Fi fundamentals, some of the Wi-Fi concepts, but there are some keywords in there like demonstrate, where it looks like you may have to learn how to configure some of these for the exam.
Yes. I think for this one, for the JNCIS, I think it's important to know how to configure MIST, but not just one SSID. I think it's important to know how to configure like, a PSK versus a .1x versus a guest SSID and how they work and what's different between them. But it's also important to, understand the monitoring piece of it. So what type of metric is MIST gathering and what do they mean?
Okay, so a lot of the internal parts of how MIST works.
Yeah, MIST have the SLEs, the service level expectation, which is like specific metrics that they like to track. I think it's important to know what they are and how they work for that exam. So they might ask you like a specific question on one of the metrics, right?
Okay.
So I think it's a little bit more detailed than JNCIA.
Yeah. And
they get into the weeds a little bit more. If I remember properly, they also ask you questions about, Python.
So they do ask about Python in this exam because that wasn't covered at all. Maybe it was. Maybe they mentioned API, but I don't remember anything about Python in the associate level. Yeah,
so API and how to get, set up. So it's, going through the process of, making an API call, maybe downloading Postman and trying it out, getting your token. And, that will help you to get ready for that exam as well, because they may ask you questions on, the URLs and how to build it and the API calls and the tokens and all of that. So
that makes sense because in the associate level, they mention just automation, but in the specialist level, they do mention automation, but now they're saying, okay, you need to identify RESTful APIs, WebSocket, webhook, and other scripting stuff. So that's even that line is vague, automation and scripting.
Yeah. I can't remember. So I took it 2020, I want to say September 2020.
Okay.
So it's been a year and a half now. But I can't remember exactly if they're going to show you some Python code and you have to tell what they say. I don't think they do that, but I do remember answering some questions on the API.
So you're not going to have to write a piece of code or script.
I don't think so. No, I would have remembered that.
Maybe on the expert level when they come out with that.
Maybe on the expert, they might ask you.
Yeah, build a script to create 500 sites.
Yeah. They might do something like this.
I do see that they talk about location-based services a lot more. So you need to know the difference between, Wi-Fi location and BLE.
And they have VBLE, and then they have asset tracking. So it's two
asset
types of
tracking,
BLEs.
proximity tracing,
Yeah.
User engagement. So that's, maybe I'll take this exam. This one looks really interesting. And then even talking about Marvis AI, because Marvis seems kind of cryptic, right? It's just AI bot on the dashboard, but now you actually have to know and demonstrate knowledge of Marvis AI.
Yeah, what happens when you do troubleshooting with Marvis? So I think that for this one, it's really important to have some hands-on practice with it, with Mist, because I think if you don't, you're gonna, sometimes you might be lost and be like, well, what are they talking about? And you need
more than one access point if you're gonna test with this, because location-based services, I guess you can do it with one access point.
Yeah,
but I guess if you want to do proximity tracing or asset visibility, being able to see what happens if something moves between access points, I think that would be even better for someone to grasp a lot of these concepts. But again, it's like most of this exam is on the Mist side. So there's really only two objectives on some of the Wi-Fi fundamentals and concepts. Here, you're really starting to dive into Mist.
Yeah. And, so if you cannot attend the training, because, you can afford it or no one is paying for you, what you could do is you could go through all the videos on design.mist.com and then try to get some practice and try different things on your Mist dashboard. If you have an AP, try different things. And
do you think Mist Master will help with this exam?
Mist Master could help if you do all of it. Yeah. It can definitely help. And I was going to say something, but I forgot. I was going to say something else, but I forgot.
There's also the documentation, which we'll talk about all of that, right? Yeah,
documentation. So for instance, for the location services, that Mist on their documentation website, they actually have something called the location deployment guide. And if you go through it, you get all of details on how to deploy location with Mist. And that's a lot of information. So if you go through those I guess publicly available documents and you put some time, I think you should be able to pass it as well. Obviously it's always better to have the training and the labs. When you do the training, you have each student have their own lab with their own access points and organization and stuff like this. So it makes it easier.
For in-person training?
For the, it's not in person, it's online.
Online. Yeah. Okay. So they have access to dedicated equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's somewhere in the lab, somewhere in the world, they have APs, and then you remote in and you get access to your AP. You get a client as well. You RDP into a client, and you can use it to connect to your Wi-Fi network to test different things.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then
usually with Wi-Fi labs, most of those people have it in front of them.
Yeah.
But for this exam, you don't need to have this lab in front of you because you're dealing with the Mist architecture and components, so you don't need to physically be there.
Exactly. And you can connect to manage.mist.com and get access to your dashboard. So so it can definitely help. But I think if you put the effort and you have Mist and you look at the documentation, you should also be able to pass the exam that way.
Awesome. So if you think someone has really deep knowledge in Mist, they can skip the associate level and just go straight to the specialist?
Yeah, they could. I don't know if they will get the JNCIA as
that's right.
a byproduct. I got mine because the exam wasn't available yet. But now that it is, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to look into that, see if you...
I think you probably have
to follow the path.
Yeah.
Or can you skip some certifications?
Or maybe you can take the JNCIA first, but then you don't get it. But then as soon as you pass the JNCIA, poof, you get both of them. I don't know how
possible.
that works.
I mean, if you can get the specialist, you should be able to get the associate level. I feel. Yeah. Because the specialist there's some overlap, but it covers a lot more in detail than the associate level.
Yeah. And then funny story to finish. So the day I took it, I was one of the first to take the exam. And that was, the night where, I had to set up my stuff and wait half an hour for the guy. So it was like 10:30. So I took the exam the day prior teaching my first class. So before taking the exam, I spent the day reviewing my notes, getting ready to teach. So everything was like fresh in my.
Yeah, you were ready.
I was ready, and then I took the exam, and I click, like really fast.
You're going through it.
I was going through really fast, and I think I did it in like 25, 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. That's blazing fast right there.
Yeah.
For an exam that's 90 minutes long.
Yeah. But everything was fresh in my mind. So I passed it. And then I got an email saying that they're reviewing my exam for potential fraud.
There's no way somebody can go through this exam that fast.
Exactly.
65 questions in 25 minutes.
And I think it was an automatic email because the next morning I received an email from like the Juniper Educational Services, like congratulating me and telling me you're part of the first 5 who passed the
first 5. So the first must have been. Do you know if you were the first or second?
I don't know.
I'm guessing Peter was the first.
Yeah, the guys who created the questions were probably the first ones, right? But I received that email saying congratulations, you're one of the first, and then on the other end, I received the fraud email.
You're one of the first, but we could have to review your exam.
I guess nothing happened after that. So I guess they reviewed it and they
plus
they
you're
gave
an
it
instructor, so
yeah,
I think you're clear.
I think it's because I went too fast. They may have some sort of
I think that's a mechanism, a safe an alert system. Like, hey, someone took the exam, but it's way too fast.
But
maybe
anyway,
it's too easy. Who knows? Maybe they've changed it a little bit by then.
I wouldn't say it's that easy. Remember, I spent the day reviewing my notes.
Yeah,
right?
that's true. You had a ton of notes to go through. That basically covers this exam.
Yeah, exactly. And it was fresh in my mind. So, no, you can, if you don't review your notes, you can get tricked for sure.
Yeah,
let's put it
that
that's
why I like to read the questions sometimes out loud, especially the difficult ones where I read it the first time and I look at the answers and go, wait a minute, I think it could be one of these two answers. So let me reread the question again.
Yeah. Even though like the Juniper, like knowing a little bit about the process of writing the questions, they have like a full on process. Like,
I mean, that's a whole art.
Yeah, it's an art. And they have multiple people writing different questions and everyone cross-reference and validate everything. And it cannot be ambiguous. And so it's like a full-on process to make sure the questions are good. And then I have a pool of how many questions that they use for the exam. So it's a full-on process. So the questions are not supposed to be tricky or ambiguous.
Yeah, it's not supposed to trick you.
But you have to be focused.
Yeah. So read the questions, study the material, basically no missed in and out, just like with any certification. They do have practice exams available. I don't know if there's one for the specialist, but I know for the associate, there was a practice exam. You could take those, kind of see where you are. I didn't think the practice exam questions were exactly like the actual exam, but it does test your knowledge a bit.
And also something interesting on the website for the JNCIS as the exam resource, they list the 82. It's actually not the 82.11, it's the 82.1-2016. If you guys find this one, just let me know. But it's funny how
it's a typo, yeah.
It's funny how they list the standards. Like, just read it and you'll be fine.
Well, hopefully, I don't know, someone who might not be familiar with the Wi-Fi might actually go look for that standard. But it doesn't, it might not be the right standard. One thing before we end this episode is we do have a Juniper exam voucher that we're going to give away.
Nice.
So if you head over to the show notes of this episode, which I don't even know what the episode number is.
I want to say 278, something like that.
But it is good till the end of the year. So at least it's still early.
We'll find out the number.
Episode 280.
280, okay.
Yeah, we're on episode 280. So go to cleartosend.net/280. There's going to be a form there to fill out. And then we'll randomly pick a winner, I guess maybe 2 weeks after this episode to give people time. And then you can use that for any Juniper exam you want to take.
It's any? Really?
I think it works on any one.
Awesome. Okay. That's a good deal, then, because they're not cheap. I remember paying a lot of money for that.
Yeah. So hopefully that will kickstart your year and you'll have a big win. Maybe take that JNCIA-MistAI exam. That's a good one to start off with and then move forward with the specialist. So hopefully that's a good tip for you guys, to some encouragement to start studying for a certification. Maybe you want to get into MIST. So if you can check out their webinars, you could get a free AP, reach out to them, and then you can start playing around with the MIST dashboard and all the different settings and see how the AI portion works.
And then share it with us.
Yeah, let us know. Well, that's our episode for this week, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.